Aston Villa versus Newcastle United. The Villa versus the Magpies. Unai Emery versus Howe. Leon Bailey versus Callum Wilson. This is a match preview on Premier 7. So make we see what I go on. Welcome to Premier 7. I am your host, Ryan Nelson, coming to you all with a top class video as it relates to a match preview between Aston Villa versus Newcastle United. These two teams are in good form in the Premier League, and of course, once these two teams are in the top 7, then you know Premier 7 have to bring the details. The game tomorrow will be played at Birmingham, England at Villa Park, Saturday, April the 15th. The game will be kicked off at 12:30 BST time, 7:30 EST time, and 4:30 PT time. The game, of course, will be officiated by referee John Brooks and VAR Simon Hooper. The two teams are brilliant in the Premier League, of course, because if you have a look on the Premier League table, you can see what I'm talking about. But not to worry, I have the details. Aston Villa is currently ranked 6th in this season's Premier League, and Newcastle United is on blazing fire. They are currently 3rd in the Premier League. And of course, I have to extend congrats, even though the season is not over as yet, but the two coaches, Unai Emery and Howe, these two persons are doing some great jobs for each team. As we can see, the nightlight is upon us. That means the game for tomorrow is very close. Now for some details. The last 5 games that was being played between the two teams, it was fairly balanced. As Aston Villa had 2 victories, there was a draw, and Newcastle United had 2 victories as well. However, as it relates to the last game that was being played on the 29th of October 2022, was a whipping and a lashing as Newcastle United defeated Aston Villa by 4-0. All goals coming from 2 in specific for Callum Wilson, 1 for Joe Linton, and the last one coming from Miguel Almiron. However, we cannot say that the game tomorrow will be the same to that of October the 29th, 2022. Because if I'm incorrect, my mind is telling me that Steven Gerrard was the coach when Aston Villa lost 4-0. As we all see now, Unai Emery replaced him. Unai Emery is an experienced coach. He was the coach of Arsenal before, and he was sacked. He went to Villarreal. Villarreal defeated Manchester United in the Europa League competition. And Aston Villa saw the need for a good coach. They brought over Unai Emery, and the results shows everything. 6th in the Premier League. Howe, though, is doing something extraordinary for Newcastle United. Newcastle United is at 3rd, and their performances in regards to playing against big teams, middle table teams, lower table teams, they are beating everyone to the best of their ability. Yes, they may lose a few points, but Newcastle is performing as if they even want to win the Premier League. But we all know that Arsenal and Manchester City will be the two teams fighting for that major prize. Now, things are going forward for these two teams, and of course, things are going forward for Premier 7. I currently have 91 subscribers, so thank you all for your support. Continue to watch, like, comment, share, and subscribe to this amazing channel for more news on the top 7 teams in the English Premier League. How to watch Aston Villa versus Newcastle on TV and live stream. Very important. Now, in countries such as United Kingdom, United States, and Canada, for United Kingdom, BT Sport 1, United States, USA Network, and Canada, Football TV. Now for some team news for both teams. Let me begin with Aston Villa. Unai Emery has a few fitness concerns to deal with. Leon Bailey picked up an hamstring problem during the recent win over Nottingham Forest. So possibly Leon Bailey will miss that game tomorrow. Further details on Aston Villa. Kamara, he missed the last 2 games after being rushed back, and from that he sustained an ankle injury. So he will surely miss the game tomorrow. And there are some fitness concern for Philippe Coutinho and of course Matty Cash. Now down to Newcastle United. There's some fair information here to share as well. The last game that was being played against Brentford, for which they won 2-1, Joe Willock, he completed nearly the full 90 minutes, but he was complaining about an issue with his thigh, so possibly he may be in the game, but possibly he may come from the bench, but he may not play. So Miguel Almiron is the next person on the list. He was back in training on Wednesday. That is good news for Newcastle, but Eddie Howe will be keeping him away to prevent any further injury concern. And the last person, the speedster, the man with skills and flair, you know who I'm speaking about, Saint Maximin. The Frenchman continues to recover from his own injuries. So let's go over to the key part of this segment as it relates to the predicted lineups for these two teams. Now for Aston Villa predicted 11, I go for a 4-2-3-1. Martinez will be the goalkeeper. No one can replace the World Cup winner. Right back, Ashley Young. Not a bad player. Going forward, defensively, is okay. For the back 2 centre backs, Konsa and Tyrone Mings. And of course on the left back side, I will go for Moreno. Now for the more defensive players in the midfield, if Kamara was available, he will be on the bench nevertheless. So I go for McGinn and Douglas Luiz because these two players play fairly well together for Aston Villa. They have been at Aston Villa for a while and their chemistry isn't bad. Now for the more forward players, for right wing or right midfield, I will go for Buendia because Leon Bailey is injured. For an attacking midfield player, I will go for Traore because this guy can score goals and he is very good on the ball. Now for the left wing's position or the left midfield position, I will go for Ramsey because of course this guy is complete. He's fairly young, but if he continues on the good form, he will do wonders for Aston Villa and possibly big teams will even want to sign this player. If Bailey was available, Buendia will be on the left hand side and Bailey will be on the right, but because of those concerns, Ramsey isn't a bad replacement on the left hand side, and the striker will indeed be Ollie Watkins. Phenomenal player. I am surprised a top team isn't in for him as yet, but he knows how to score goals. He scored against big teams before and he can cause some problem tomorrow against Newcastle United. Now for Newcastle. Newcastle's predicted formation, I would go for a 4-3-3. Typical Eddie Howe's formation, so I can work with that as well. In goal, Nick Pope, the best goalkeeper for Newcastle. 13 clean sheets, equal to David De Gea, the only two goalkeepers this season who have that record. Right back, Kieran Trippier, the best right back in the Premier League. He's balanced going forward and coming back defensively, so he will be the main right back. The back two, in terms of centre backs, I will go for Fabian Schär and Botman. Fabian Schär is a person who likes to go forward a bit more than Botman, so Botman will be the person who's cleaning up. And it is similar to that of Matip and Van Dijk. Matip normally goes more forward, Van Dijk stays back, so these two players will keep their spot for Newcastle. They are very physical. Left back, Burns. He is very tall, but he's very physical, so he can help out in regards to the pace of Ollie Watkins. Now for CDM, I will go for Bruno Guimaraes. One of the best defensive midfield players in the Premier League. You can rank him up there alongside Casemiro and even Thomas Partey. This guy is absolutely amazing. Now for the two progressive midfield players, Longstaff on the right. Willock possibly could be playing tomorrow, so he will take up the other spot on the left. Now for the right wing, Murphy. Murphy is playing very well. Miguel Almiron is missed. He is training since Wednesday, but Murphy is doing a very good job. Now for the left wing, Joe Linton. This guy is scored in the previous games as well for Newcastle. He knows how to score goals, so he'll be the person playing on the left wing. And for the striker, I will surely choose Isak. Callum Wilson will be on the bench, but Isak is a person who can score goals. He knows how to read plays. He knows how to, run between the lines. So that is my predicted 11 for Newcastle United. So I predicted the 11 for Aston Villa and for Newcastle. What is your say? Now, of course, before I go, I want to say that my predicted winner will be Newcastle by 2-0, based on the fact that they are higher in the Premier League at third. They are scoring more goals. Defensively, they are better as well. Aston Villa is a surprising team to be at 6, but they are playing quite well under Unai Emery. But Newcastle to me will be 2-0 tomorrow. So it's over for me. So I'm out, but continue to watch, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Premier 7 for top news about the top 7 teams in the Premier League. Take care.